Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm PTexasRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights, they're doing very well. Edison Silver Knights, plenty of prospects down the pipeline. And UNLV Rebels Hockey, going to be a supporter of them. Always will support UNLV Rebels Hockey. I believe what their program is doing is phenomenal. But there is one conference, one division, one aspect of college hockey who affects not only Vegas, but affects the NHL as we know it. A division that is arguably the best in NCAA college hockey, best in U.S. college hockey. Because let me break this down real quick before I get into the meat and potatoes of it. Let me break it down. So you have the major Canadian hockey junior leagues. All right, you have the OHL, Ontario Hockey League, WHL, the Western Hockey League. You have the KMJHL, the Quebec Junior Major Hockey League. All right, those are the main ones in Canada. And then here in the United States, you have the United States Hockey League, which is a precursor to the NCAA, a precursor to college hockey. And NCAA hockey, it's been around for decades, it's been around for generations, but one aspect that really needs to be examined is Big Ten hockey. Big Ten Conference has 7 members in their hockey conference. 7 members who are also part of the Big Ten in baseball, who are part of Big Ten in basketball, Big Ten in football. Big Ten Conference is in so many sports, but the fact that they have an entire conference dedicated to the world of hockey, I find fascinating. And what this show is going to be about tonight on this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub is I'm going to go and examine all 7 teams and break down their impact with your Vegas Golden Knights and impact when it comes to the world of hockey. The first team I got to talk about is the best team in Big Ten hockey. Not only are they prestigious, not only do they have first round pick after first round pick, but Michigan Wolverines have prestige among them. Now, the Michigan Wolverines ice hockey team, they have been very successful. All right, they have been 100 seasons in terms of varsity ice hockey out there in Michigan. Not only does this have a number of championships in NCAA, not only have they been in the Frozen Four for the NCAA tournament, not even last year, but the Michigan Wolverines have a rabid fan base. This is a fan base that had the world record for the highest attended hockey game in history. There's also the same Michigan Wolverines that has had multiple Stanley Cup winners come from Michigan. You have had dozens and dozens and dozens of NHL hockey players and have 20 current players that are playing in the NHL today. So when it comes to Michigan, it's going to be interesting to see what the connection would be to Vegas. What would be the connection to the Vegas Golden Knights? Well, on paper, you wouldn't see it. You would not see what the connection would be until you dig a little bit. When you dig, you actually find that they not only had 2 former Golden Knights that played at Michigan on the Golden Knights roster, but they have 2 prospects in their system today that came from Michigan. The first one, you probably know, it's pictured right there. That is the number one prospect for the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's Brendan Brisson. Brendan Brisson being the number one prospect, being their first-round pick in 2020, was one of the notable standouts from the Michigan Wolverines team that went to the Frozen Four in 2021 and Frozen Four in 2022. This is also the same Brendan Brisson that is playing with the Henderson Silver Knights right now, and the same Brendan Brisson who's going to be a Golden Knight in the future. Could be in 2022, could be in 2023, in 2024. But regardless, him being their top prospect, being a former first-round pick, he is eventually going to be a Vegas Golden Knight down the line. He's the first one. But the second one was drafted later in that same 2020 draft, and that is Jackson Holm. Jackson Holm was drafted 91st overall in the 2020 NHL draft. So for a guy who was drafted in the third round of the 2020 NHL draft, well, what has happened to him? What has become of Jackson Holm? Well, what has happened is that he's actually developed a solid career in juniors. I mean, Jackson Holm, someone I haven't talked about in detail, but definitely need to. This is a guy who has been part of University of Michigan, 7 points in 16 games. This is after being in the USHL for the Green Bay Gamblers, where he put up 49 points in 41 games in 2021, 2022. And he actually had 2 points in 4 playoff games in the USHL. So for Jackson Holm, for a third-round pick, 20 years of age, he is someone that the Vegas Golden Knights took advantage of and added them to their minor league roster. He could become a valuable asset to the Henderson Silver Knights and maybe in the future become a valuable asset in the NHL. Because a third-round pick in the NHL draft, that has nothing to scoff at. You do not look at a third-round pick and say that, oh, he's not going to become anything. There are 7 rounds in the NHL draft. First round, you are hoping they can become your future. Second round will become a top prospect. But the third, fourth, and fifth round is where you find depth at the minor league level. The third, fourth, and fifth round pick are players that you hope could develop someday into a NHL bottom 6 forward. You're hoping they could develop into a bottom line defenseman, maybe become a starting goalie, depending on when you draft a certain goaltender. But, that's really how the NHL draft started to become. So for Jackson Holm, who's playing at University of Michigan today, him being a prospect from Michigan is a big deal for the Henderson Silver Knights and the potentially Vegas Golden Knights. So I talked about the 2 guys who are currently have ties from Michigan. How about the 2 guys that are former? Because the 2 former Michigan Wolverines who are playing right now in the NHL, but not for the Vegas Golden Knights. The first one you're going to know, and the second one is going to be a blast from the past. The first one is a guy that they traded this past offseason, and that is Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty, he's been in the NHL for a long time, but people forget that Max Pacioretty was from University of Michigan. He spent that season at University of Michigan. He is a guy who played 4 seasons for the Vegas Golden Knights. And if it wasn't for who they traded him for, he would have been a success. He would have been a star-studded talent if he wasn't traded for a future superstar in Nick Suzuki. But that was the first one, Max Pacioretty. The second one was a bottom-line defenseman who they got in the expansion draft, and that was John Merrill. John Merrill played a few seasons for Vegas, been around the league for a while. Now he's in Minnesota. He's become a really good defenseman. So that's the Michigan side of it and how it's affected Vegas overall. Now, let's get to their counterpart in the Michigan State Spartans. Now, Michigan State Spartans is an interesting tale because, yes, the Michigan State Spartans do not have a direct link to the Vegas Golden Knights. But what the Michigan State Spartans do have is a bunch of championships. This is a Michigan State hockey team that has had 7 regular season championships, 11 tournament titles. This is a team that plays against Michigan, and they even have an annual tradition of having Michigan versus Michigan State play at the Red Wings Arena out there in Little Caesars Arena. Michigan State Spartans is no joke. And when it comes to Michigan State, have they fallen off as of late? Yes. But the talent that has come from Michigan State is quite notable. Not only did you have Torrey Krug, who's been a solid defenseman in the NHL, John Michael Lyles, who became a valuable asset in Colorado and Toronto, but you had one of the best goalies in the 2000s and early 2010s in Ryan Miller. Jeff Petrie became a solid defenseman out there in Montreal. You also had a really good guy on forwards with Jim Slater. So, the Michigan State Spartans have no direct link to the Vegas Golden Knights. What they have is talent that have made it to the NHL. Now, this team here is recognizable, notable, and is one of the best in college hockey. And there's definitely are some connection to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Michigan State Spartans have been the iconic legacy-building franchise in college hockey. This is an ice hockey team that has had 5 national championships in NCAA. It's also the same Minnesota Golden Gophers that you would know had multiple players on the Miracle on Ice team, that 1980 iconic championship team that USA beat Russia. It's the same Minnesota Golden Gophers that made it to the Frozen Four this past NCAA tournament. So, Minnesota Golden Gophers have been great throughout their entire career. But what would be the connection to the Vegas Golden Knights? Who would be some people you would know that played in Vegas? Well, the first notable one would be the guy that is the Iron Man of hockey, and a guy who's currently playing in Vegas to this very day, and that's Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel was a Minnesota Golden Gopher and has actually been a valuable asset to the bottom 6 in Vegas. Doesn't matter what line, what pairing you put him up with, Phil Kessel has been a solid addition to the Vegas Golden Knights. But not just him. There have been players who have been drafted in the first round. There have been some really good players who have gone to the NHL. But one player that I feel doesn't get enough respect, and one player who has actually been with the Vegas Golden Knights since day one, and that is Jake Bischoff. Jake Bischoff has been with Vegas since the 2017 NHL expansion draft. Jake Bischoff has been a defenseman who has been on the bottom line in Vegas and has been a middle pairing in Henderson. He played for the Chicago Wolves. He played for the Henderson Silver Knights. He has been a long staple of the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And I just wanted to take a second to give him his props because Jake Bischoff has been 6 seasons in with the Golden Knights organization. He's a valuable defenseman, a veteran in the locker room in Henderson, and he has definitely been a valuable asset to Vegas. So that's the first one. The second one would be Eric Holla. Holla. Eric Holla was taken in that 2017 NHL expansion draft at the same as Jake Bischoff and the guy I'm going to talk about next. Eric Holla only spent 2 seasons in Vegas. But what Eric Holla could do and what he's been able to do in the NHL is perform when needed. Eric Holla had 55 points in that first season, that inaugural season in Vegas. Recently, in Boston, had 44 points with them. So Eric Holla has taken 1-year deal after 1-year deal after 1-year deal, being with Nashville, being with Boston, being with New Jersey. He was with Carolina the year they got traded from Vegas. So Eric Holla has become a valuable veteran in his early 30s. He has become a good player in Vegas and has become a good player in the NHL. He, once again, came from Minnesota. He was a valuable link there. And the last guy is someone you probably didn't expect, but he was an undrafted free agent, did not get drafted, but was a, I must say, valuable part of the Vegas Golden Knights in year 1. If you do not have him, he does not become the great player he once was and became the fan favorite that he still is today. And that is Nate Schmidt. Good old Schmitty. You know, Nate Schmidt played 3 whole seasons with the Vegas Golden Knights. 36 points, 30 points, 31 points. He gets traded to Vancouver. Had 1 season there. His stats dipped because he did not fit in Vancouver. He goes over to Winnipeg, and he has become the defenseman he was in Vegas. You know, it's a situation where the Winnipeg Jets have brought back what Nate Schmidt was. He has brought back the guy that we all knew Nate Schmidt was in Vegas. So Eric Holla, Jake Bischoff, Nate Schmidt were all valuable members of the Minnesota Golden Gophers and now have Phil Kessel as part of the organization. So Minnesota has had valuable links to the Vegas Golden Knights. Notre Dame, there really is no connection to Vegas, but I want to talk about Notre Dame real quick because of what college could be. Now, Notre Dame does not play Big Ten basketball. Notre Dame does not play Big Ten football. But who says that when Notre Dame is forced to pick a conference, why wouldn't it be the Big Ten? Notre Dame is an independent in football. They've been independent in college football for a long time. But why not join the Big Ten? Why not complete the transition? After all, Notre Dame in Big Ten hockey, they're there for a reason. All right, the Big Ten having Notre Dame there was no coincidence. So my argument for you here would be if Notre Dame already has the NCAA tournaments, they already have what they're doing out there in the Big Ten in hockey, why not complete it? Why not become the Big Ten in college football? Why not join the Big Ten in college basketball? I believe Notre Dame would actually be perfect going over to college football in the Big Ten. You would get to see Notre Dame versus Ohio State every single year. You would see Notre Dame versus Michigan every single year. Can you imagine the box office, the tickets, the amount of money that'd be made off of that? So yeah, Notre Dame, no connection to the Vegas Golden Knights there. But what Notre Dame values in terms of money and in terms of prestige to the Big Ten, that is a valuable part. You know, Ohio State, Leighton Ayak would be the connection here. Leighton Ayak, the defenseman for the Henderson Silver Knights, a very valuable defenseman to the Henderson Silver Knights. He played for Ohio State, got his shot in the Vegas Golden Knights system, got drafted by them. So Leighton Ayak being part of Vegas is a good part there. But when it comes to Ohio State, very similar to Michigan and Minnesota, they have some great players who have played for Ohio State. Ohio State has had some really good players who have come through Ohio State and have played at the NHL level from Ohio. There's even been talk about Ohio State. There's even a guy in the future draft who was going to come from Ohio State that will be taken in the NHL draft. Watch out for him. So, Ohio State's pretty good. Michigan, really good. Minnesota, the pinnacle and the prestige of the Big Ten hockey. And then you have Notre Dame, who brings in the money, who brings in the value of the Big Ten. So the last two are people who are brought over from the rest of the Big Ten Conference, and that's Penn State. Penn State having a hockey team, some people are going to totally forget they even have a hockey team, but people who do, Penn State has actually been not bad. I'm not going to say that they are the cream of the crop, or they're as successful as they are in college football. But what Penn State has, no doubt, is they have a very loyal fan base. One thing I have to give credit to Penn State to this very day is the amount of valuable and diehard fans who love Penn State. They love them to this very day. So Penn State has the loyal fan base. Michigan has a loyal fan base. Ohio State has a loyal fan base. Notre Dame has a loyal fan base. But this team as well is very loyal. All right, Wisconsin is built on hockey. There's no secret that Wisconsin loves hockey. Minnesota is born off of hockey. Minnesota, their college level, they get a lot of NHL players that come from Wisconsin. So when it comes to Big Ten hockey, that's really all you can say. Wisconsin is really good. Penn State, loyal. Michigan, Minnesota, they compete for championships. Michigan State, they made the tournament. Ohio State, they made the tournament. That is what this Big Ten hockey really is. And I know that there's people who are saying that they're going to expand, because I know that with UCLA, USC, there's a bunch of teams in the Big Ten that are going to have hockey teams. So let me ask you, do you believe the Big Ten should expand? That the Big Ten should add more to the Big Ten Hockey Conference? Or should it stay at 7? Should it stay at the 7 teams they have right now today? So, now, when it comes to Vegas Hockey Hub, this has been a fantastic show. And you know what? We're going to have more episodes down the line talking about, hockey, talking about the Henderson Silver Knights, talking about the Vegas Golden Knights. I also want to give a shout out to UNLV Rebels Hockey for what they have done. But when it comes to Vegas Hockey Hub, we're going to have more shows on the way. I have a show talking about a certain player in Vegas and what has happened to him since joining the Vegas Golden Knights. Watch out for that. Also, go to prconnectionradio.com, the voice of new media. Check out all the content on there. Cozy Stone, she did an interview recently. An amazing interview. I'm a huge fan of Cozy Stone. I think what she's doing on this network is exceptional. Guy Dawson, what he does for PR Connections Radio, the amount of work and time and effort he puts into it, I'm always going to give credit and always give respect to Guy Dawson for what he does for PR Connections Radio. Brian Gardner, what his shows have been. You have the Love of Business, the Professionals podcast. There is so much great content here on PR Connections Radio. I have to give them all respect. But until then, we're going to have more episodes down the line for Vegas Hockey Hub. But until then, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And until next time, have a great one. Continue watching junior hockey. Go Knights, go. Have a good one.